Hello, extra time.
They're important to the league not to get a high because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read, they just laugh at you.
The single club, they're playing in the League One and they're playing in the Europa League and they're credit to the game in this country. Maybe we should get Stephen Kenny then to manage the Irish team.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the extratime.com podcast. Your host Luke Jordan, Dundalk and Macdara Ferris. Macdara, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm delighted. Welcome back to the show, Oisin Langan. Oisin, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Have you missed the podcast?
I have. I didn't do what you're doing, and that's keep it on football. I tried to branch it off and learned very, very quickly that maybe Extra Time podcast listeners didn't necessarily want that. But it was. We attempted something for a while. Then I got a job, which meant I couldn't do it the way we were doing it. But I was glad when you were able to resurrect it in the form that you've resurrected it, Luke. And obviously, I'm now doing a different podcast, which we'll get to later. But yes, I have. I've missed doing it. I enjoyed the Friday, Monday angle of it and trying all the other sports. We got good reaction, and it was worth doing why we did it. And then obviously I had to stop because of getting other gigs elsewhere, which was great. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying listening to it now. So I'm enjoying I'm enjoying listening to it, having enjoyed doing it, and now kind of doing one again.
Well, some things stay the same. Macdara's still with us.
Can't get rid of him, no matter what you do. He finds the login details somehow. I don't know how.
Let's get into the action then from last weekend. Might start live game actually, because a bit of talking points around certain issues and off the field as well. Shells, Derry City, 1-0 Derry. Oisin, I suppose, a big win for Derry there, considering last time they came to Dublin as well. Obviously beating Rovers, drew it. Pats, probably was good to get win in the road, I suppose, in Dublin.
It's a cliche that I'm going to drop here, but if you want to win the league title, those are the kind of games you have to win in horrible conditions away from home against a team that are very tough to play against. Derry found a way to win. They possibly got a bit of a break with the Paddy Barrett red card. Well, they did get a bit of a break with that, but I think Rory Higgins would be pleased. He's obviously now losing Alan Reynolds, and Rory is a good manager. He's a good coach. He's got other good coaches around him, but it will be interesting to see how big an impact the loss of Reynolds will be, because we've seen it anywhere he has been. Reynolds has done a good job, be it as a player or a manager. And I do like the maturity of Derry in this situation, of actually wishing him well, because Alan is not just going to another job, he's going home. And believe you me, I've done the drive a few times, Waterford to Derry. There's no short way, let me tell you that. But that will be a big thing for Derry now, a bit of a challenge. They've an awful lot of talent, both on and off the pitch, but Alan will be a loss. But regards the performance, not great. Regards the result, perfect. Exactly what you want to do.
Just actually were you surprised Alan Reynolds left the position at Derry? Was that come to a surprise to you, or is just the pull of going home just the natural thing to do?
I would have been surprised if it was another club, but I'm not surprised that he's gone back to Waterford. Alan obviously has an on-off thing going on with Waterford over the years, but it's been a different Waterford. It's Waterford in a sense that is where the club is located, and they play at the RSC. But there have been how many different Waterfords now club-wise in the last couple of years? And in fact, like Alan obviously was desperately unlucky to not be part of a European adventure with them, that the rules are the rules and they couldn't do it. But so I wasn't surprised that he came back. And it says actually an awful lot about Waterford FC and where they are as an organisation, as a club, as an entity, that Alan, with his eyes fully open, is going back, because he has been there in not such great times and did a great job in trying circumstances in the past. And the fact that he has looked and has talked to people, he obviously didn't just take the job because he was offered it. He took it because A, I imagine, that going back to Waterford is something he wanted to do, but B, he wouldn't have done that unless the club was in a good place. So if Alan Reynolds is going back, it suggests to me that the club is in a very good place. And I think that's something that Waterford FC fans can be very happy about.
Yeah, like Ross and Rachel, they're on a break, but they're back together now. Macdara, I suppose, just on Shells then, obviously Damien Duff not too happy with certain refereeing decisions, in particular Paddy Barrett incident. Have you seen the incident? What do you make of it?
Yeah, so he picked up a second yellow card. So it looked a bit harsh, but sure, Damien Duff loves a good moan. So like, were you surprised,
No. But I suppose there's a wider context. I suppose he was talking at RT after the game, and he was kind of making the point that the tendencies are going up, maybe standards are going up across the league, and then he kind of blatantly point down saying referee standards are not going up, or he's claiming that they aren't.
Yeah, I don't. Well, but what do you do about that? Like, is there a whole lot of referees out there that you're looking to promote or engage? Like, yeah, like, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is to that. You know, they have lost a number of kind of, I suppose, experienced referees over the last couple of seasons. But I think anyone going to the league regularly kind of knows who are the better referees and not. We've seen a few kind of come through from the first division, and the referee, I can't remember his name, who was looking after the Dundalk game on Friday night. He's a former IFA referee up in the
Alan Hunter, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that is not the guy who ran the.
Is it Arnold? It's not Arnold Muir, is it?
Arnold Hunter, is it?
Is your man Alan Hunter? Is he not the guy that ran that like Ireland?
Oh, the FAI fans, supporters.
Yeah.
Oh, how he and I keep in mind, I was working in News Talk back in the kind of 04 region, and he started popping up as a talking head. So, as a fans representative. Primetime, by the way, used to have him on as well. And yeah, Alan Hunter was his name, and he was kind of, maybe there was an actual club, but it always banged of a self-appointment to me. But he got on the media kind of roster for calls, and he kept popping up. It was amazing. Arnold Muren possibly played for Holland in the 70s. I could be getting, so maybe it is Arnold Hunter rather than Arnold Muir.
It's Arnold Hunter. But isn't Alan Hunter the guy? Alan Hunter was on the pot. Was he not on the show with Ian Dunphy? And Dunphy
Yes.
Who's this guy?
He was the one who called for the referendum on whether or not Roy Keane should come back for Ireland. It is an absolutely classic clip. And Dunphy just kind of laughing and shrugging his shoulders and going, where'd you get this guy? Where'd you get this guy? Worst Dunphy ever, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Worst Dunphy impression ever, I should say.
Yeah, it is Arnold Hunter, just to clarify.
Okay.
Yeah, I suppose the question is then, I suppose, lads, like, if you're asked by a regular punter on the street, would you be happy with the current standard refereeing? I'll go to Oisin first. You see a lot of games like myself. Would you be happy with the current standard refereeing?
I always err on the side of not bashing referees because you can replace players. Very hard to replace referees. No, I wouldn't. I think there's ways they could look to improve it. First of all, it would be great if there was clarification from the referees at the end of a week. Look, this is why we made this decision. This is why we made that decision. If there's a mistake going up to it, I think people actually respond to that and they respect it. And it's something that managers and players do. And when they do it, you nearly respect them for it. Now, I don't mean the Harry Maguire, we know we must do better tweets, not those ones, but just after a game, look, we got X, Y, and Z wrong. Like I remember at the start of the season, Colin Healy saying after the Bohemians game, we weren't great in the first half and I changed it. And it was an admission of getting his setup wrong. And people did actually respect him saying that. One of the problems, I think, is the culture around football. And I know people get really irritated when you compare one sport to another. But if you look at rugby, what they've done really well is that they've brought in former players. So the whole thing of, well, they don't get the game because they never played it at a high level, that's a non-argument. And you also have someone like Frank Murphy, who played for Connacht and Munster, who is allowed to referee Connacht and Munster games because he's a referee and people get that he's respected. Obviously, reffing in rugby is more of a collective thing. So I wonder, could they put that in a bit more in football, like a collective refereeing thing, whereby the ref gets a lot more communication. I know they get a level of communication now. I wonder how much it is. Could you, like, plain and simply, offer more money for referees and make it worth people's time? But I think one thing they need to do is start communicating and also build a pathway for referees, maybe to come maybe for ex-players or recently retired players. And I think that would help. I think Damien Duff did a very smart thing in bringing every other club into it from the sports marketing point of view. And I watched that interview and I put my sports marketing cap on, and he said, I'm not going to be able to quote him directly here or repeat exactly what he said, but he said something along the lines of, there are so many things that are going great in this league. The crowds are up, and that's not just about Shelbourne. So immediately he was like, hey, I'm talking about everyone here. I'm bringing everyone into this. We all deserve better. I thought that was very clever of Damien. He didn't just make it about Shelbourne. He made it about everyone. And while Macdara is right, he does like a wine. I think that was a very clever observation of him. The question you asked me was refereeing standards. Unfortunately for referees, because they're like goalkeepers, there's only one of them out there. Well, there's two of them out there, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They get judged more harshly, and there's no one to kind of defend them. If a St. Pat's player makes a mistake, St. Pat's fans might jump in and defend them. Whereas referees, they have no fan club to defend them. They have no noise defending them. And where they could help themselves there is maybe being a bit more clear in their communication. So I would like to see that. And I would like to see a pathway created where maybe more ex-players are getting involved, or maybe the refs that are there are given more time regards working on actual refereeing, because they all have jobs, they're part-time, whereas they're officiating full-time players and full-time clubs. Now, I don't think we'd be able to make them full-time, or maybe we would. There's not that many of them. But if we can't do that, certainly let's make it more worthwhile, or let's get them more time to be referees, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the key point there is, but in terms of refereeing standards and what Duff was saying, and I think you're right, it was clever to bring in not just the Shelbourne issues, it's a whole league issue. I think they shouldn't be immune to criticism, but they can't go beyond the kind of idea of abuse and disrespect. But I think they should be under the microscope for criticism. I think sometimes, like, we can chat about the right Benson incident later on, maybe with John Flanagan, and discuss that. But like that again looked very soft, a red card. I mean, my issue I mentioned before on the podcast, like, it's the only league I've ever seen in the world where a manager gets booked every game. I don't know, like, do we have the most abusive coaching staffs in the world, or is there something going on there? I don't know. Again, there's the kind of an issue I'd have. We might touch on later on the two club model with Shels, obviously in Hull. That's kind of the big news last week. We'll come back to that later on. Might just turn to Sligo Bows. Macdara, big win there for Bows, 1-0 away to Sligo. Always difficult place to go to showgrounds, and nice form taken into the big game Friday night.
Yeah, I watched the second half on LOITV on Saturday night. It's a pretty close game, but Bows came out with a win. There was a great chance for Luke McNicholas, came up from the Sligo goal in injury time, and he had a shot that just fizzed over the crossbar. Would have been one that would have definitely gone viral around when a goalkeeper comes up. And you know, I'd say Sligo were probably a little bit disappointed they didn't get something. Didn't get something from the game, but Bows showed great resolve. They got a set piece goal to give them their 6th win out of 7 for the season.
Yeah, I was just saying in my head there, if that goal had gone in, it would have been probably one of the goals of the season. But has there ever been a goalkeeper score in the League of Ireland or in recent memory? I can't think off the top of my head. In the top flight. Well, this can't first division too.
Yeah, I can't think offhand.
I can't think of one either. And he came mightily close. It was a powerful shot. Maybe it was a bit too powerful. It would have masked a poor result, or a poor performance, I should say, from Sligo Rovers. Now, I only got to see the last 25 minutes because I was covering the Women's Six Nations game in Cork, which is why there was no Voice Notes podcast on Saturday morning for anyone who's curious. But Sligo were really poor in the game. And I was talking to a few people who were there afterwards because I was very curious, having only seen the 25 minutes at the end. And like, Bows weren't much better, but again, the Derry thing of going away and getting a goal to a set piece, that's what good teams do. But I was thinking after watching, God, it's a pity that Luke McNicholas didn't get that goal, because it would have gone viral. These things, they're great for the marketing of your league and your product, and you just really love these moments when or if they happen.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, what's the best goal you ever seen live in the League of Ireland, lads? What do you think? I'll make that first. What's the best goal you've ever seen live?
Paddy McCourt scored a brace against, I think it was Bray Wanderers when Shamrock Rovers were playing in the Dalymount Park in 2005, I think it was, and he got this individual goal that he waltzed by about 6 or 7 players, a classic Paddy McCourt goal, if I can say that. And so that one just sticks to mind when you ask that question.
The Derry Pele. Oisin, what do you think?
The best goal I've ever seen in the league.
In the league, yeah.
Or the best live. Oh, come here! It has to be my main man, Conan Byrne. He's listening. He'll never forgive me if I don't mention it. But even if I didn't have that fear of the phone call from Conan, that's a joke, by the way.
Another goal in Dalymount Park then as well, wasn't it?
That's right.
Half a line. Yeah. I'm trying to think.
But listen,
one of the best ones I've seen actually. Go on. Sorry, Oisin, go on.
The best goal I've ever seen live is, even though it was a bit of a pock, Seanie Maguire's goal in injury time of extra time in the cup final. It's just a beautiful moment.
Best goal I've seen live, I think, I remember the kids, Mitchell Park was. I don't know McMahon Macdara. It was actually against Rovers, the 5-0 game. Scottish midfield player Billy Gibson hit a volley. It's actually an incredible goal if you've never seen it. 2007. It's brilliant goal. If anyone else actually has a goal that they want to mention, make sure to drop it in a tweet there later on. Just before we move on, Macdara, Ali Coote, a player I was mentioned off the show to you. He's a very good footballer, and this season I think he's one of the standouts this year. He had another excellent game. Yeah,
I think he's got 4 assists across the campaign so far, and he's definitely one of the best attacking players in the league this season. He's been a big contributor to where Bows are at the minute, up top of the table. Having been, there's a lot of talk that he was heading out of the club last year, and Declan Devine definitely seems to be getting the best of him, and it's great to have you can appreciate a fine save or a defensive masterpiece, but I think most people want to go and see attacking players who can really take the game onto that position. He's definitely one of them.
Yeah, he's in fine form, and again we'll chat more later on about the big derby game Friday night. Pats down 3-0 against UCD. I got Oisin for this one. A must need have been, I'd say.
A big boost. And to have Chris Forrester scoring again is a good thing as well. Funnily enough, last year during one of the games, Keith Tracy said, we need to see more goals out of Chris Forrester. And at the Soccer Writers Awards, I bumped into Chris and he looked at me and he stopped. And I wouldn't know Chris at all now, right? And he just said, I got you more goals, because he scored a few after that. With a smile on his face. Top fella, great guy, so it's good to see him scoring again. Now, here's the thing, Luke, even though I am the St. Pat's commentator again, I missed that game because of my commitments to the Six Nations. I'm back this Friday night. Haven't got to see it yet. It's on the to-do list. I've just finished watching the Cork City Drogheda game in preparation for this on Friday night, so I can't actually comment on the game, but I'm glad for them that they've got the win. I do like Tim Clancy as a person. I get that people will look at the team performances and criticise him up until the last couple of weeks when they've got good results against Shamrock Rovers away, and now obviously UCD at home. Granted, a game you'd expect them to win, but if you criticise the manager for the poor results, then you have to praise him for the good ones. And he made good moves in that game against Rovers, and Mulroney on the left, you have to give him a lot of credit for that. And as well as that, there's still players kind of finding their way a bit, and like to lose Riley and to lose Cotter, those are 2 big pillars of your team. And I don't think people quite have realised that. And maybe they didn't even realise it themselves, how important those 2 were. That energy that Riley brought around the middle, that energy and that burst, and the creativity that Cotter brought down the wing. And they're kind of finding their way, having lost those 2 again. And, those 2 results against UCD and against Shamrock Rovers, that will build a bit of confidence and suggest to the players that what they're doing is the right thing. And, yes, they're in a good place going into this game against Cork City, who, granted, are actually nearly better away from home than they are at home so far this season anyway.
Yeah, and even at the game, it was a bit of a surprise inclusion with Jay McClellan, nowhere to be seen all season, and suddenly starting the game, the 7-game season. And I played well, actually, off the right. Pat's switched to a back 4. I think, personal opinion, back 4, it works better, especially when you put wingers in the squad. And it's no surprise Mulroney played and had a very good game, playing his natural position instead of playing off a 2. And
was there an injection of pace, and was there more incision in the attack? Because that's an observation that Keith Tracy would have made a number of times across the season so far in St. Pat's games. Is that something that you saw improve against UCD?
It improved, but there's still a long way to go, I think, in terms of team performance. Like, I think you have to take into account too that this is not criticising Andy Myler and his team, but in general, obviously UCD, very poor start, very unlucky in terms of the squad they have, losing key players last year. So taking that into account, definitely improved. Obviously getting the result, 4 points in their last 2 games, but the next 2 games are going to be crucial. Cork City, obviously at home Friday night, and then playing Easter Monday against Drogheda. I think after those 2 games, I think we have a better idea where Pats are going this season, because look, I think UCD, they're the games you're happy with, regardless, for a team like Pats. Again, like I said, Chris Forrest scoring 2 goals, big positive. The goalkeeper, actually, I think, has been a huge positive.
Oh yeah, he's been very good. Yeah. I say he's been very good. I only saw him in that game against Rovers. He was excellent, but he looked like he had a command as well. Like the back three, as it was maybe that day, looked far less jittery. And David's a good goalkeeper, and he is young, and maybe people forget that. And once you get the yips, they're hard to shake off. But Linus has been really, really impressive in his couple of games. And I really like the look of him in Tala that day.
Yeah, and he's very vocal. Like, I mean, obviously, if you stand in the camera, you can hear it, and he's just conveys command to us back far, and he's telling them to push further, and he's telling them to come back, and he's talking to young players like Curtis and McGrath. Like, that's only going to benefit them in the back four, having a goalkeeper behind them that's 31, 32. Obviously, Adamusu is very talented. I don't think it's a surprise he came out of the lineup. I think he's had a poor season to his standards. Obviously, sometimes as well, it's good to get out the firing line, to have an experienced player to come in. So hopefully that'll benefit him too. But look, like I said, decent performance, 3 goals, none conceded. Horrendous conditions, I should also mention. And like, it was touch and go. Like, it was in Chicora 7:15, and the lineup's announced, but there's a pitch inspection, and no one knew the game was going ahead. So maybe if the FEI can sort that out, maybe announce that the game is going ahead now, earlier, be a bit better. Hey, last game to cover before we move on. Cork Drogheda 1-1. Oisin, you say you saw the game back, have you? Cork and Drogheda?
Yes, very impressed by Drogheda. Missing Conor Keeley, and maybe they mightn't have conceded had he been there. I've been really impressed by him. He was a player that I watched an awful lot actually in the Irish League for Ballymena United, who have recently qualified for the Irish Cup final. So well done to them. And David Jeffrey, a guy I've tremendous amounts of time for. But like Kevin Doherty, now there's a bias here. Kevin Doherty is a very good friend of mine, but I just love how he sets up his team. I love how he gets the best out of his talent. He's got Markey and, he's got Deegan in exactly the right spots. And Fred Draper was a good signing, and he's growing into the league. And you forget that, he's a kid. He's only 18. And they deserved their draw. They really did. And even the goal, and it was an own goal, but it was still a really good ball into that kind of dangerous corridor of uncertainty that you would hate if you were a defender or a goalkeeper. And Cork City, they did create chances, but there's still a little like when the thing with Turner's Cross is it's obviously Cork City's home venue, but I think it's a venue that away teams like going to because the pitch is nice, the dressing rooms are nice. Going to Cork is not too miserable a journey. You're on a bus for a couple of hours. It's all motorway, and it's actually quite a pleasant journey, and it's a nice place to play because it's a decent stadium, so players nearly rise to it. There's probably a little bit too much directness maybe about Cork City at home. Maybe they need to work on breaking teams down, but they did create a few chances. Drogheda fully deserving of their draw, and for Cork City, the issue has not been the away results. The issue has been the home results. A 2-0 loss to Shelbourne, a 1-1 draw with Drogheda. I'd nearly write off the 2-1 defeat to Bohemians at the start for a couple of reasons. One, it was the first match back in the Premier. That's always tough. And two, Bohs, well, we've seen it. The proof is there. They're a good team. They're the standard setters over the last couple of weeks in the early stages of the season.
And I suppose that's the one thing, though. I suppose obviously Cork's home form can improve, but the one thing they have in their favour this season, anyway, so far, is having a striker that's scoring goals, and Rory Keaton, who scored again against Drogheda. And you have a player like that, it's invaluable to a team, especially coming up.
It certainly is, and he can win headers as well. He can get on the end of set pieces, and Cork City do have the capability of executing set pieces quite well, and he runs in behind as well, and he's always there to hold it up, and opposition defenders don't particularly like playing against him. So he has adapted to the Premier Division, I should say, quite well, and looks a real handful for defences, and very popular amongst the City fans.
Before we move on, a quick run through the results in the First Division last Friday and Saturday. We have Athlone Town 1, Galway 3, Wexford 1, Treaty United 1, Cove Ramblers 2, Bray 1, Waterford 7, Finn Harps 1, and Longford 2, Kerry 0. Macdara, really quick, just yourself. Keith Long's first game, wins 7-1. Good start.
Yeah, you can't get any better than that, really. But okay, bar a clean sheet. But I don't think anyone really saw that. That's some bounce. But gives them real boost as he comes in. You talk about a new manager comes in and gives a bit of a bounce. That was incredible.
Yeah, and Oisin, before I finish up, Galway 7 wins from 7. The John Coughlin, Ollie Horgan combination working fantastic there in the West.
And no surprise, given the experience that Ollie Horgan brings. A word, by the way, of sympathy to Ollie Horgan, whose dad sadly passed away in recent days. So Ollie's a really good fella, and I just want to pass my sympathies on to him and his family, and hope they're okay at this really tough time. But they've got a good squad, and I think he's an American lad. Is it Verdon? No, not Verdon. I haven't seen them play now, but there's an American, Jonathan Higgins, has been on the podcast a few times, and he's spoken about their striker who's just knocking them in for fun at the moment. Again, possibly because Cork City aren't in the first division this season. I haven't seen a whole pile of first division, but yeah, they've started like a train. It's hard to see that train pulling up. It will be interesting to see now if Waterford can go on a run and cut that gap. It's more than possible, given the talent they have, and the fact that they have to play each other twice more makes things interesting. But look, the story of the season so far is actually Cove Ramblers, and the fact that they've now, I think, collected more points than they did in the totality of last season. And like Shane Keegan, a guy that everyone knows because of what he's done with Dundalk and what he's done with Wexford, and obviously his media work with Off the Ball and a few others, he has put a great squad together there. And the signing of when he signed Jack Doherty, I just texted him and I said, wow. I didn't even say anything else, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. And he said, yeah, it's not a bad bit of business. Jack's not the only one there, obviously, but that was a signal of intent, and that intent is certainly being shown early in the season. So, and he himself, Shane, would say that, and I heard him say this recently, I forget where, but he would say himself still the playoffs is probably most realistic, and I would agree with that. But yeah, great start to the season by them, and it's fantastic to see Cove are a really good club. I always enjoyed heading to watch them when I worked in Red FM in Cork. Used to head down every Saturday night when Dave Hill was in charge. And Sonia O'Sullivan was sporting her Cove Ramblers hat recently as well. So it's all going well. Of course, her dad John is the former chairman of the club.
Yeah, they're definitely the surprise package to get the first division chair. Well, I suppose, like you say, you've outlined already that Shane Keegan, he's a great track record in the first division, done great stuff with Wexford years ago, and to be honest, he's a good guy, and you're kind of happy for him, especially after the Dundalk debacle and everything. We don't have to go over that, but you're kind of glad for him. You may have noticed, obviously, we haven't covered the Dundalk Rovers game. That is coming next, as we're delighted to welcome on John Flanagan, former Dundalk captain, so stay tuned.
Get in touch. You can email us at extratimelive@gmail.com or tag us on Instagram using the hashtag League of Ireland, or tweet us at extratimenews.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the second half. Macdara and Oisin are still alongside me, and we're delighted to welcome on former Dundalk captain John Flanagan. John, how are you?
All good. Lucky. Great to be here.
We've saved, I suppose, the hard part for yourself, really, Dundalk and the Rovers games. What's your initial thoughts on the game? I suppose the big thing was the red card definitely swung the game in Rovers' favour, but overall, at this point in life, Dundalk?
Yeah, I think red card aside, Dundalk didn't play particularly well on the night anyway. So whether that would have affected the overall result, I don't know. But obviously against a side who's as much quality as Rovers, when they've that extra man, they're just going to tear you to shreds. And they look back to themselves. And I was away in England with a group of kids from school the weekend, and they're all, we're going to bat the Rovers. And I had to tell lads, Rovers are a quality outfit, and they've been playing really well. They just haven't been getting the points that probably the performances have deserved. So unlucky for Dundalk that they would have won where it kind of clicked. And it was a bit, I suppose, showed where Dundalk are at the moment. They're a bit hit and miss in terms of performance. They haven't found that rhythm yet that the likes of Rovers and Derry have. So it's going to be an interesting time in the next couple of weeks.
Macdara, you were in the away section like myself on Friday night out in the games. Absolutely soaked, torrential rain. But I say you were the opposite, John. You obviously enjoyed the occasion immensely, I'd say. Yeah,
it was very good. And actually, I was talking to one of the Shamrock Rovers players for an upcoming match programme, and he was saying he was delighted with the rain because it helped on the pitch. And it probably didn't help Dundalk that, as John was saying, Rovers were able to kind of pass it around. Like, people would probably seen the fourth goal, which Graham Burke got, which he got on the end of it, was 11 passing move. I think, to be fair to Dundalk, like Rovers were 1-0 up, and then Robbie Benson got the red card, and then it was a kind of challenge on League Race, and then League Race got the second goal. But in the second half, it was probably a 10-minute spell. You know, Rovers were still 2-0 up, but Dundalk kind of got on top, and it was like, God, if Dundalk could get a goal here, could be a bit nervy, because, you know, the results around, well, the performances have been good at Rovers, the results haven't been great, and the crowd the home crowd would have got really behind the team. But then once John Kenny got the third goal, that was it, game over. And you could see people leaving the home end, particularly the ones, the end that was uncovered down the town end of the ground. They were leaving early. I wouldn't have necessarily blamed them, but it was a really good win for Shamrock Rovers. It was their first win up there actually since they won 4-0 in the COVID season in 2020, and that was the last time the Rovers had won up in Dundalk. So yeah, finally getting their first win of the season. All the Rovers fans, even though they were drowned leaving, were very, very happy at the end of the game.
I think just on that one, just a story jump. I think the Pat Hogan been missing was huge for Dundalk. I mean, when he's missing, it's like they're missing the talisman, and the way they play as well. They need him up there to hold balls up and bring other people into it. It had to be a huge confidence knock for them when he pulled up late. So Dundalk have to get a replacement, or someone else. I mean, use a Gaffney and Green and Rovers. There's two quality players there. Dundalk don't have that at the minute with McMillan going.
No, and like speaking firsthand this season, the damage Pat Hogan can do in the box when he's playing against your club, and it's a huge loss, of course, when he's not playing. Obviously, look, it was 1-0 to Rovers when Gaffney scored, and then there was the red card with Robbie Benson. I know there's been a bit of controversy. We discussed there around the referee decision, there on the podcast, and certain obviously other managers giving out the refereeing standard. What was your view, lads, on the red card? I'll go to John first. Do you think it was a red card, or would you like James Rogers on commentary thought maybe yellow card would have sufficed there?
Well, again, I'm only going to say I was looking at it on a laptop in a hotel, so on initial, I thought he jumped up trying to block the ball. I don't think he went in to do it. I think he tried to block the ball, and there wasn't a whole lot in it. So I think yellow card maybe would have got away. Again, I haven't seen too many replays, and I know there's a big furore online that he got a tiniest nick on the ball beforehand. But sometimes when you give the referee a decision to make, and there's that sort of reaction from the benches that it's the easy one, the red card. I think a yellow card maybe would have been enough.
Macdara, what do you think if you were to take off your Rovers glasses and higher objective ones? Do you think it was a fair decision on the night, or would you think a yellow card, like James Rogers agreed on the commentary saying would have been?
So I didn't see it on the night because I was standing in the terrace, and you just where the incident happened right in front of the dugout, you just can't see from that terrace. And I think because of that position, that didn't help Robbie Benson because it was right in front of the Rovers bench. Unsurprisingly, they were up looking for it. But when I saw a red card, I was surprised. When I looked at it, I had a look back at it afterwards, and it's so quick. You slow it down, and when you look at it in real time, both of the players have their feet high. But interesting, Dundalk used the new appeals procedure. They put their €500 up, had to appeal before. I think it's lunchtime on Saturday. I think it's the morning after the game. They put the appeal in, and the Independent Appeal Committee had a look at it, and they rejected it. So they looked at the video evidence. I suppose it needs to be. I don't know what the rules are, but when you're looking at VAR, it's a clear mistake, and I don't think you can say that about I think it's definitely a yellow card. So then you're going to really overturn it, but so it means that I think it's Robbie Benson's first red card. I think I might have that right. But it means he'll miss a couple of games. But it's the first time kind of the appeals process has been used. But I know Dave Donnelly, who does a lot of stuff for us on Extra Time, he was tweeting out about the DLR Waves red card. Isabel Finnegan got sent off against Bowes, and I really can't understand why she's got a red card. If people have a look back that seems to be now. I don't know whether those cameras. I think it's not being potentially used in the first division because they're using the pixel cameras, is it? Yeah, exactly, which aren't as good, but certainly that seems a bit of a strange decision. But I don't think it's an overwhelming mistake by Arnold Hunter, the referee, on the night. So the committee looking at it said they haven't overturned it, but it's a real pity for Dundalk because Robbie Benson's going to be missing for the next couple of games, and all the build up and ahead of the game was talking about all the goals that Benson had scored against Shamrock Rovers, and it took out one of Dundalk's best attacking threats in the game. And
who, do people know who's on this committee as such? Is it declared who's on it, or is it just they hide behind the facade of a committee?
It's the Independent Appeal Committee. I don't know who sits on it.
Well, this comes back to kind of.
By all accounts, there was no hearing around. It was just, as you said, Macdara, just on the video evidence, this decision made.
Yeah. Like I know it can't be used for yellow cards. So the Barrett one and the in the other game, they can't use the procedure. But at least it's there. But then when you look at, I think, probably not grounds to overturn it in this instance, but worth Dundalk trying with the DLR waves. That one does look a bit strange to me.
John, this game aside, obviously a bit of a blip. How would you, after 7 games in there, how would you view Dundalk's season so far? I know at the start of the season there was uncertainty off the pitch. Players maybe weren't coming to the door quick enough for the fan base. Now we're 7 games in, couple of wins, up in third. And the outs looking in, it looks like so far it's been a decent season.
Yeah, I think the problem with the fans obviously want to go back to the heyday of Stephen and winning everything. But in terms of pre-season, was very disruptive because players didn't come in until the last week or two, and it's very hard to get a rhythm going. And some of the players are only in the country maybe 3 or 4 days before the first league game. So, and then you see a player like Ainsley come in a couple of weeks ago, play centre half. He could be doing really well, and he picks up a knock, and he's gone. And Williams is in. They haven't seemed to be able to get that settled team yet, and that seems to be a big issue for Stephen. That first of all they were late coming in, and then when they're picking up injuries because a lot of them maybe haven't played football in a couple of months, and that's why they're out on loan. So when they're thrown in the deep end, they're picking up injuries. But I think if you had told them or any of the fans you're going to be third at this stage, they would have been happy.
Were you worried yourself at the start of the season?
To be honest, yeah, big time, because I think when the season finished and they had qualified for Europe, you're going right, we need an extra maybe 5 or 6 players on top of what we have, because we had quite a thin squad. And then they lost a couple. I mean, players left as players retired. So the squad was even smaller than it was initially. So they kind of go, geez, we need about 10 in there to try and, because the European games come at the end of the summer. I know they have an extra window then in the summer, but the squad's very, very thin on the ground, even at the minute.
Yeah, but I suppose the flip side of some of the players they have brought in, and obviously I've only seen really myself one Dundalk end of the season, which was the unfortunate game. Pats went up there and got battered. But 2 players that really impressed that day was Tulloch and Malley. In particular, Malley, I think, on the ball. I know he actually had a good chance actually on Friday night to make it 1-1 when it went over the bar. But he looks like a real find, and so does Tulloch. Look like 2 really good players. Yeah,
Tulloch has that. He's that X factor about him. He just terrorises defences, and he just wants to get on the ball and get at people. And he's the way we try to describe him in commentary was he's a really big, strong, nippy winger. He has a bit of both. He's really quick, he's really powerful, but he's got great feet. And you've Malley sitting in that number 10 role, and he seems to be able to glide around the place. He's very like Will Patching in Derry, when he's that kind of movement about him, and he's an eye for a pass. And I think it's him. I think he slipped John Martin in for that chance on Friday, and John blazed it over the bar. But they two players in particular that they have caught the eye. And at the back, I think Louis Ainsley looked particularly good as well at left side of centre half or left full. The Hayden Muller looks good, but again, you need these lads to get in together and maybe have a solid back four and play together for a while, develop partnerships. That's the big thing at the minute.
Is there any area in particular you think at the moment that Dundalk are relatively weak in? Is that striking department when Pat Hubin's not there, that they're lacking and maybe another number 9 to come into the team?
Yeah, I'd see it. Pat's a funny one. Pat, he's the captain. He's the talisman. He's the top goal scorer. He just has this X factor about him. He seems to bring everybody else on when he's playing, and he definitely the crowd feed off him when he's there. He lifts them. When he's not there, it's like there's a huge gaping chasm up front. And even when he's not scoring goals, he's linking the play. He's getting on it. He's terrorising defences. He just makes the team play better, and they look to him for inspiration. When he's not there, as you see on Friday, it's still a good player. John Martin coming in is a good player. But there's nobody in the league who is Pat Hoban to Dundalk. How would you rate the job Steve O'Donnell's done so far at Dundalk? I know last year, especially the back end of the season, there was maybe a bit of criticism. They dropped out of the cup and maybe the league form kind of faltered, but that can happen with a new side. Would you rate that so far he's done a good job since going there? Yeah, I think so. He's coming in, he's trying to stamp his authority and his style of play on the game, and how he wants the club run. And we have to be realistic as well. I mean, they're not the Dundalk that they were 5 or 6 years ago. The budgets that they have are not up there with the top teams in the league, and they're playing maybe above their means at the moment. A lot of players coming in on loan signings. It's very hard to build. So in general, I think he's doing really, really well. All he can do is try and be as successful as he can on the field, and hopefully then the finances will come, and then he can maybe build on the squad and start challenging.
You mentioned there, John, about the kind of finances, and I kind of mentioned previous about the uncertainty off the pitch. Were you happy, or what was your opinion of when it looked like Hull, was mentioned by Liam Rosnier in a Hull TV in-house media about kind of coming in and being a partner club with Dundalk? What were your thoughts on that? Would you see it as a positive or a negative? Obviously, it looks like they've agreed now with Shelburne, but what was your initial thoughts when you heard that news?
Yeah, I suppose looking at it initially, you're kind of maybe blown away that you kind of maybe could be linked here with a big club and how's that going to help. But when you actually started digging into it, and Hull maybe wanted, as you said, just a feeder club to play the way we do what we say, everything's on their terms. It probably wasn't the right deal. But the club, Dundalk, they haven't hid the fact that they're looking for investors to come in and help them and invest in the club, and whether that be through partnerships or just money coming in, or they need it. And you said yourself, I mean, in the off season, the Dundalk will link with an awful lot of players. But Stephen he's been open and honest, and he said when we go for a player now, if Derry or Shamrock Rovers or even Pats maybe want them, he's going to go there because we can't afford them anymore. They just can't compete. And then he wasn't going to just go and take players in for the sake of it. He wanted players who he believed could fit his style of play, and players that could develop the club and push them on. So it was kind of a catch-22. Some of the players he wanted, he couldn't afford. And then he had to wait right till the death to try and get players in.
Macdara, we were chatting last week a bit about the league and how it's developing maybe at a sustainable rate. You know, we kind of maybe touched on it a bit last week, but obviously the news breaking in the last week with Shelburne and Hull, that link there. You know, is it a positive development, you think, for the idea of what's the multi-ownership of, like we've seen with Waterford and Fleetwood, now looks like Shells and Hull? Is that a positive? Is that something we can welcome into the league, or is that something you'd be looking at going, I'm not sure about that?
I'd be a bit wary of it. I did talk about it last week. In relation to Shelburne, there's news emerging just this week that seemingly Shells have done a deal with Dublin City Council to essentially buy back Talca Park. And, Shelburne need the finances if they're going to, develop the stadium. Anyone that's been there kind of knows what the stadium is like and is in bad need of investment to take it to the next level. So you're just saying, well, where is that money going to come from? So a model like this is maybe the way to go. But I think it's a bit different from, the Manchester City model in New York and whatever. I think any arrangement that League of Ireland clubs have, it is revolving around kind of Brexit and maybe players coming across to be able to play in Ireland. So kind of loan deals, which can be good, but they're good on the short-term basis, not on the long-term basis. And that's when you're kind of wondering, is that really right for the League of Ireland club? Or is the parent club trying to, use the common travel area and the fact that, players can come across much easier than going to continental Europe now because of Brexit? And that's where my concern would be about it. And we definitely don't want to, there needs to be something, both clubs need to get something out of it. And I think it needs to be, that's the worry, is like, really, what does the club here in the league, what is the club here in the League of Ireland going to get out of something like that? Because there's been a few link-ups in the past before, but they've never really come to fruition where there's been a benefit, certainly for the League of Ireland club.
Oisin, have you thrown the tiro in the box like John said? Are you back?
I'm back, finally. It wasn't a protest at Flano arriving, I swear. It was technology.
I'll try this to you. We were chatting off air. I'll let you discuss it now. The multi-club ownership. Macdara himself there is kind of hesitant on the idea. I know off the air you were saying to me it could be a positive development for the league. It
could be. Well, look at it this way. Football sometimes tends to think of itself as different to all other business, which in some ways it is, but in other ways it is not. It is the same as any other business, in a sense that you need to make a profit, you need to cover your losses, you need to get resources. And for a lot of us in this world, we work as part of massive global organizations. So why would football be any different? Now, this is a relatively new thing for us anyway. in the League of Ireland in this sense. I know there has been link-ups before, but if you were to ask me what Home Farm Everton actually was, I don't think I could tell you. And I'm not sure people from Home Farm who were involved at the time could either, because I don't know what they got out of it or what was the point of it. This is something different. I'm sure if you asked any Waterford fan at the moment about Fleetwood Town and the owner and the multi-club model, they would tell you they're happy with it because there's stability. They've now got a great manager. There's money being spent. You're not hearing those, what's happening with the club stories anymore. Now, that's all at the moment. I get that. And as we were talking about earlier on, Alan Reynolds has gone back in there. So if you can attract someone like him, you're obviously doing something right. So in football, maybe we can look at it like everyone else does of, well, I'm okay with working with a global corporation or a company that's based outside of here. I get the downfalls of that, but, and Macdara has put it very well, there has to be something in it for the club as well. Now, there's something in it for the club could be the improvement of facilities, the access to players, the access to resources. That's a really key thing as well. And the multi-club model is not new. We've seen it with City in New York, and we've seen they own Melbourne City as well. I actually went over to see Melbourne. Well, I didn't go over specifically to see Melbourne City. I happened to be in Melbourne and watch them. And it's a good game day experience. And funnily enough, I know that there's someone who follows the A-League at the moment who's doing a study of the League of Ireland to see how did the League of Ireland manage to increase its attendances. It'd be interesting to see what they find. I wouldn't be just jumping in and saying, no, this is wrong for us. We shouldn't be doing it. We shouldn't be the lackey to other clubs. I think what didn't help was the Hull manager, was it Lemur Senior, saying, oh yeah, well, if we're going to buy them, they might as well play like us. I don't think he kind of quite got maybe what he was being asked. I don't think he quite got maybe that Shelbourne is in a the League of Ireland is our top tier. And to play in our top tier, you have to play as your own kind of independent entity, even if you are part of a wider thing. So I wouldn't be kind of worrying from that point of view if I was a Shelbourne fan or fan of any other club who's going to receive investment, because I think it's as important for those clubs who are buying in, for the clubs they're buying into, to work as a business. And how do you do that? Like, what success is a business? Success as the business is getting people in the gate to watch you, and making sure the players you're producing are of a standard that you can sell them on. And whether we like it or not, this is now a sell-on league. And like, for any player who's really ambitious, their ambition, like, you might have players who grew up as Shells fans or Bulls fans, but I'm sure those players would still tell you their dream is to play for Liverpool or Manchester United or Inter Milan or whatever. You can make a living playing football here, but ultimately, like, if you get to a really good standard, someone else, a bigger fish, is going to want to buy you, and that the market forces dictate that you are going to be sold. So I'm not as worried about the multi-club model. I would obviously be cautious about it, and Macdara has outlined all the things that he'd be cynical, maybe is maybe the wrong word, but that he'd be watching out for. But there are definite positives to it if it's done right, and hopefully one of those positives is the improvement of facilities, but it's also a potential blocker to any move, because if you look at Shelbourne, for example, right now, unfortunately I missed this part of the conversation because of technology and all that. Talca Park needs to be improved. Like, it's fine saving it, and I'm glad for the people who saved it that they've got this victory, but to what end? What are you going to do with it now? And maybe you had an update from DCC, and I hope that the council get behind them, and that the council aren't going to say, well, listen, you had the chance to go into Dalymount here. You were effectively, yourself and Bulls were being handed the stadium after years of torture, and the clubs do deserve it. And I'd like to see a lot more support for clubs regards facilities and all that. And like Tala is the perfect example of what happens when a club and a council get together and the relationship works. But that's potentially a blocker for that. Whereas you look at Cork City I don't think Cork City really have assets. They don't own Turner's Cross. Bishopstown, I'd be uncertain as to who owns that. And here's the other thing that I'm going to completely undermine myself with here. There are so many nuances to all these deals that maybe we don't know about from the outside. Maybe our comments are completely defunct. But one thing is with say, for example, if Evan Ferguson moves on, and I'm seeing today he's linked to Manchester United, Bohemians get a massive chunk of a sell-on deal there, or a sell-on fee, as they did for Matt Doherty. One of the worries I would have, and this is where I would worry about the potential buyout of clubs and link-up of clubs, is the reduction of that. But ultimately, like we'll say, if someone buys a player from Waterford, like does Waterford get that money or does Fleetwood get that money? Or where does that money go? So long as the League of Ireland club and the entity isn't losing out, I'm okay with the structure and the parent club thing. But each model, each club, like if someone buys Shelbourne, that could be very different to someone like Southampton. If they wanted to buy Dundalk, there could be very different relationships and they could all be very different things, as all businesses are different to each other.
I suppose that's kind of the question is, like, you know, how are these deals going to work out? But funny enough, we're lucky to have, actually, we mentioned Home Farm Everton, we have a former Home Farm player on the panel, so let's chat to him about this. John, when you were playing with Home Farm at the time in 98, 99, you know, did you notice any differences with the link up at Everton, or was it just completely oblivious? Like, what was your comments on that?
To be honest, as a player, I was completely oblivious. The only link that I really knew about was that we had Everton across the front for our jerseys. I mean, that was it. There was nothing that I like. There was no, say, because Oisin mentioned about coaches coming over, or, you know what I mean, sharing resources, that kind of thing. We were struggling, and we were a struggling club. Financially, we were struggling. We were in Whitehall. There was nothing different, and nothing didn't seem to be any special, because a couple of years later they folded. So it didn't seem to be any financial support or infrastructure put in place there to try and help the club along.
Did you even get to say, Flano, like when you told people who you played for, did you kind of soften the Home Farm bit and just end it with Everton? I play for Everton. No,
it was nearly the other way. I played because every time they asked you to explain the Everton bit, you just kind of had to. I don't really know, so I just said Home Farm. Even now, in the picture in there, and the young lads looking at it and go, "Oh, you played for Everton, did you?" And you go, "No." But just that's all I realised was Everton emblazoned across the front of the jersey.
Now, excuse my lack of knowledge on this due to my age, but when did the link up begin with Home Farm and Everton? Like, what was the purpose of the link up? Was there an idea behind it? Like, did Everton contact Home Farm, or like what was this idea behind it?
I don't know. Oisin, you're older than me. You can answer that one.
I am older than you, but I'm dumber than you, so I can't answer it. I do remember it happening, but as to the ins and the outs of the deal, I'm not sure. My one Home Farm story is I went there to cover a Waterford FC match one time when I was in they were Waterford United back then, when I was still in college in around 98, 99, and the guy at the gate did not believe me that I was a journalist, so I had to pay in. And then I was up on the old TV rickety stand covering the match using a Nokia 3210. I think at that stage, I was using a Nokia, but I'll get to the answering machine in a second. Halfway through the game, this lad walks out onto the pitch and he had a flagon of cider in his hand. And the Home Farm keeper, whoever he was, or maybe it was the Waterford keeper, just shouted at him, "Get off the pitch, you prick." So your man walks off, and I was thinking, wow, only in the League of Ireland could this happen. But yes, at the end of the game, there was no one in WLR to actually take a report off me. So I had to use the public phone, because I had no credit left because I was a student, to ring my full-time report into the answering machine in WLR. That was my experience of Home Farm Everton. And they might have been Home Farm Everton at that stage.
That was your first voice note, Oisin, was it?
That was a slowly germinating idea from 1999 before WhatsApp was even thought of.
Well, there goes the explicit rating now on the podcast today. We have I suppose just before we kind of finish up, John, maybe a quick word on Drogheda. One of your former clubs, Oisin was waxing lyrical about his friend Kevin Doherty later on, but in fairness, he's doing a great job. And Drogheda, the start of the season, we're seeing maybe one of the favourites to go down, but 7 games in, looking good.
Yeah, in fair, I had a chat with Kev up at the Dundalk Drogheda pre-season game, and first of all, I mean, Oisin say he's a gentleman, and he's done a fantastic job in Drogheda in the last couple of seasons, and he's done well in the off season. He's brought in some good players. I think, and I've said it, if Drogheda can keep their first 11 or 12 players fit and playing, they'll do quite well this year. They have a very, very strong 11. I mean, there's no one going to go up to, I don't know what's called now, Weavers Park this year and get an easy game. I mean, if some quality, the likes of your Markey in there, he's so talented, and that young lad Freddie Draper up front, he's only 18. Yeah. He's causing defences all kinds of trouble. If they can keep their 11, 12, that core fit, I don't think Drogheda will have much trouble this year. They're really good.
Well, look at
sorry, Oisin, just going to say the crowd as well this year, Oisin, has been fantastic up there. They're selling them out every week, and there's a great buzz around the town.
There is. It's a fantastic atmosphere at Weavers Park. It like so many other grounds, it's horrific, and it needs to be knocked and started again. But it does generate a great atmosphere. And you said it there, Flano. Like you look at their starting 11 from Friday night, right? McCabe in goal, incredible keeper. Keeley was missing, but Jones and Adeboyega played well in the centre. We're two really attacking fullbacks and full of energy. Then Deegan in the middle. Like Deegan is, if you were to go into the new, what's the ChatGPT thing? Is it the AI thing and say, create me a midfielder? I know that's not how it works, but if it was, create me a holding midfielder, a chiseled holding midfielder, it would give you Gary Deegan. He's got Grimes around him and Brennan and Rooney and Markey and just, all these really good players and Draper up top. And I think you're absolutely right, though, that the issue will be when they start losing bodies. That's going to be the challenge because, and in fairness to Kev, he's like, and Dara Doyle, they're doing a great job. And I think they're actually on less resources this year than they were last year.
Yeah. I don't know if it was yourself, Oisin, was with me in Oriel Park one of the days last year. We were talking to Kev and he was talking about resources and what he had and hadn't. And he said he was scouring the league looking for players. And he got Damien Duff phoned up and said, we've a lad here, centre half, he's looking to go out on loan. And he said he's on X amount a week. And Kev goes, that's nearly half my budget for the whole team. He's no money. He's on. He has lads up there giving them 100% week in, week out, and they're on buttons. So I mean, he's obviously a great manager that the players want to give him everything.
Oisin, let's have to come back to that ChatGPT comment. Do you think if I type into that, you give me Gary Deegan ahead of Casemiro? Is that what you're thinking?
Oh, certainly. In fact, if United had Gary Deegan, they wouldn't have lost 2-0 to Newcastle.
Deegan's got a better disciplinary record than Casemiro.
John, before you finish up, you great time today. How are you finding the commentary at LOITV? Again, I think most people are on agreement that it's been a fantastic asset for everyone, from media to fans. How have you found it commentating on the games?
Yeah, I love it. First of all, from my own selfish point of view, it's given me an avenue back into games and going watching games regularly and seeing the league blossoming over the last couple of years. But I have to give credit to my main commentator, Adrian Taff. Adrian's fantastic to work with. He's such a professional. I know we were chatting earlier on, Luke, about the bias that can slip in, and he wouldn't let you. So he's kind of keeps me on the straight and narrow. If I start leaning one way too heavily, he'll give you a nudge or he'll give you a look. So it is great, and I have to say, even as I said myself, I was away the weekend with a group of kids. And I was able to tune into the match abroad. So it's a fantastic service. And I think the more we can do with it, the more we can deliver. It's only going to enhance the league around the country and around, I suppose, Europe and the world.
Blano, who would you say is your favourite LOI TV commentator to work with? And really think about this answer now.
Des Kern, is it?
My line's very crackly here.
Oisin, I think that's.
I think his silence says it all. He doesn't want to offend Adrian, and he wants to say that. You know what? Look,
anybody.
All jokes aside, the way I judge commentary is, if you were to switch it on, you didn't know where the guys were from or girls were from, and you were trying to pick it out, and you were trying to see, well, where do their biases lie? You couldn't tell by listening to Adrian and John. Like you could just as easily put them on Virgin on Friday night and no one would bat an eyelid, because they're that good in commentary. And the work, and Adrian has done work on the Europa League and a few Champions League games with Virgin Media, and the work he puts in, lads, it's phenomenal. And he's a great fella as well. And we're lucky there's a few good commentators around the LOI TV scene, and like Adrian and Adrian and John are amongst the best of them.
I think, as you say, I don't think people realise, Oisin, the amount of work. Well, not for me. I mean, I just rock up. But the likes of Adrian and yourself and people who are doing the main comms, there's hours and hours of prep that goes into that, and the stats and details of everything. There's so much. I just wonder, Oisin, you might be able to answer this better than me. The fact that myself and Adrian are also streaming the commentary, say, to local radio as well. We have to commentate maybe slightly different than if you're just doing pure TV. Because obviously with the TV there, the pictures speak for themselves. But you were trying to go to a radio audience as well. You think that makes a difference?
No, and the weird thing is I don't know how he's managed to do it. But Adrian has found a sweet spot between that radio and TV commentary, because I remember and now this was rugby, so it's a little bit different, but I remember a couple of years ago, I was doing an Ulster match and I was doing radio commentary. But for whatever reason, the international feed didn't have a commentator, the international feed for telly. So they put my commentary over it. Okay. And I got an email from a very angry Ulster fan in Canada saying, you talk too much, what the hell are you at? And when I sent an email back to him, he actually sent it to my boss in News Talk, which was very annoying because I wasn't even doing the game for news. But anyway, I sent an email back to the two of them and said, look, I didn't actually realize it was on TV. They took my commentary and they put it over it. So it just goes to show you. And you know, sometimes a match of the day when they do it, they put radio commentary over TV bits, especially in the early rounds of the Cup. It just kind of jars. But here's the thing. I don't mind a bit of extra talking on LOITV and a bit more description, because it's not like Sky or RTE or BT where you have 10 cameras so everyone can see everything. With LOITV, you've maybe 3 cameras. So you probably do actually have to do a little bit more explaining of what's going on. And especially from the co-commentator point of view, I always say to Keith, actually talk as much as you want. Don't assume that people are seeing it because you're the expert. And sometimes you do need to actually explain the pictures, and they may not necessarily see everything. Certainly not to the level that you would on a BT or a Sky or hopefully a Virgin Media. Of course, we'll see that on Friday night, but I've no doubt they'll put a lot into the production because they know everyone's watching. And by the way, they're not just doing this for the crack. They have I don't know what it is, but they obviously have a purpose in mind, and they know they need to do a good job, and I've no doubt they will. But yeah, I to go back to your original point, John, I don't know. I think whatever way he does it, it's because I've been in the car and I've listened to him on radio, and I've obviously watched the LOI TV coverage that you do as well, and it never jars me when I'm watching the visual stuff, and I never feel like he's not telling me everything I need to know when I'm listening to the radio commentary.
Yeah.
Actually, just to follow up on that, John, and what Oisin kind of mentioned there before we finish up, when you are looking at an instance, like say, for example, if you're on commentary for the Rug Benson, we're talking about earlier on, like, is it difficult to go over certain situations again where you might only have one camera angle, and then you're obviously agent half will say to you, watch your comments on this? Is that a difficult job to do when you kind of have that one angle to see, or what's the like during in game?
Yeah, it is tough now. We're lucky enough that we kind of have the monitor in front of us that you kind of get in as he's talking, I'm kind of looking at the replay and trying to get a better view or a better angle on it. But it is tough, and as Oisin said, you don't have everything from every angle, and you can't really see it. You're only giving your best opinion, your best judgment on your initial reaction, and then when you go and look at it on the replay again, I mean, people have to realise you can only see what you can see in front of you. We don't have a camera from every angle, and we don't have super zooms in. But it is, I mean, you do your best. That's all you can do.
Friday night then, obviously playing Sligo Rovers at home. They're going to look for a bounce back, I assume, after this point game, the Rovers. How do you see it going?
Yeah, it's a big one because, I mean, they were brought down to earth with a bang, as I said last week, and Sligo Rovers are always really, really tough in Oriel Park. There's never much between them. I know Keane has gone, but he tortured us last year like he did so a lot of the clubs. It's going to be interesting to see who's fit, because Benson was in because they were missing a couple, and he's now gone as well. So it's going to be a close game, and I'd hope we can nick one, maybe the odd goal.
Score prediction then? What, 1-0, 2-1?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1. 2-1.
John, great time. Thanks so much for the show. We'll chat again soon.
No problem. Thanks a million. Cheers.
And there's kind of a lot of grumbling about maybe we don't have enough Premier League players, but in terms of the Championship,
but what's the point in grumbling about it?
But the step
I can't argue about it, can I? If they're not playing the Premier, what's the point in grumbling?
The step up to international football in the Championship, is it kind of is it easily managed?
Well, I tell you back there when we played in 2002, what's the point in grumbling? We had lads who were all at the bottom of the Premier, real scrapping away, Kinse and Matty Holland, and I had Gary Breen, who hadn't even got a club. What's the point in grumbling? So I don't subscribe to that. You know, you just, whatever it is, whatever I've got, I'll get them together and make the best of them and try and make sure we qualify. Grumbling is not one of the things I do.
You can subscribe to each new episode of the ExtraTime.ie Sportscast on iTunes. Please give a rating or add a comment there to let us know your views.
Welcome back to the third half. Macdara and Oisin are still alongside me after a good shift so far. Macdara, you have an April Fool's story you want to share with the audience of Extra Time, so
I was able to go in the away end on Friday because Tom O'Connor was in the press box for extra time, and on Saturday morning he sent a text into our group admin saying interesting story coming out of Oriel Park concerning administrative issue last night, which may see Dundalk get all 3 points. And I was like, oh no, what's this about? Finally, I'd seen Rovers win a game, and he said, oh, that seems to be an issue with the triple substitution. So I was out for breakfast. So I quickly downed the coffee, came home, got out the laptop, got out LOITV to look at. I knew there was a triple substitution. Had a look at when it was 75 minutes. So there I was, because you can only make 5 subs, but you can only make 3 during the period. So did something happen with Rover? And just as I was like screen grabbing, so no, it isn't. Tom came back in and said it's April Fool's. So I don't like kind of stuff like that. But I'll give him it because it was April Fool's morning and it was before midday, because obviously you can't do it after midday. But yeah, I thought grounding an April Fool's joke and something that was quite close to reality. He hooked me in, hook, line, and sinker.
April Fool's, I said it off air. April Fool's is horrible. It's a terrible day. Oisin, what's thoughts on April Fool's? I just
hate it. After Des Lynam's grandstand sketch, no one should ever try again. The thing is I'm gullible and I take things very literally. So I find April Fool's a struggle.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's move on from April Fool's. Look, we'll be still not to mention the big game this Friday coming up. Obviously, Rovers Bowls, first Dublin Derby of the season, live in Virgin Media. I'll go with Macdara first on this. On the game itself, obviously Rovers couldn't have asked for a better result coming into the Derby, when a 4-0 away to Dundalk. Bowls, on the other hand, in great form, top of the league at the moment, leading the way. It's set up for a really good game.
Yeah, it is, because there would have been massive pressure on Shamrock Rovers coming into the game if they hadn't got a result in Oriel Park. And last time the teams played was in Danimount, and Bows won 1-0. But the previous 3 games last season, Rovers won them all. But Bows are the informed team. Like, whoever, if there's a winner on the night, they have bragging rights in the Derby. But also, if Bows win, moves them significantly clear of Shamrock Rovers at the top of the table. Where if it goes the other way, Rovers really will be motoring. We said last week that these 2 games were really, really important for them. So it's a massive test for Declan Devine. They say, with derbies that form goes out the window, but Rovers have probably had the better of the results, kind of going back over the previous years. Whereas before, there was, when Keith Long was in charge, I think there was something like 8 games and 8 wins for Bows and a draw and 9 games. It was a massive run when Rovers were trying to break that. So yeah, it's a really fascinating game to be on Virgin for their first incarnation to do a League of Ireland game. So yeah, the only thing is whether Leinster are playing. They've got their knockout stage of the game's on in Lansdowne Road on Saturday night. So I think that's RTE are showing that game. And, other League of Ireland clubs, everyone else is playing Good Friday, but I think you're trying to pick up the floating voter. And if you're picking out a game with a huge amount at stake early enough in the season, in a game that, there's always a bit of needle in the game as well, I think it's a great game for them to have on the television.
Yeah, and on the media aspect, Oisin, for years we've been crying out for more games to be on TV, and it's Neil O'Riordan kind of summed it very well in his headline in his article that for years it's been kind of like an LOI coverage, like an obligation to show, or to kind of forced to show it, but rather now Virgin Media aren't doing this out of the goodness of their heart. Like, they clearly see this as an opportunity. So again, this is like another, like Dara said last week, this sustainable development that's happened the last couple of years in the league, that it seems to be another right step that we're getting hopefully more TV coverage coming in.
It's a fantastic step. I will say this, and this is my hashtag unpopular opinion. I'm not too critical of RT's coverage of the league. I think they do a lot of games for something that doesn't get them a whole pile of figures. They are public service, so maybe they are obligated to do it. Could they make changes in their coverage? Maybe they could. But I don't think we can be too mad at them. Plus, we now have a platform where we can watch every game live. Virgin Media will they get big figures for this game? I'm not sure, but they know that as well. In order to get big figures and to create kind of and build an audience, you have to be on at the same point in time every week. People have to know when to go to you, just like Coronation Street. Someone tweeted today, would Kin pick up big numbers if it was shown once every 3 weeks, then ignored for a couple of months, then picked up again? No, of course it wouldn't. I'm curious to see what Virgin Media's figures are, but I think they know themselves on a one-off like this. You're not going to get hundreds of thousands of viewers. But what the difference between Virgin and the old TV3, and of course TV3 did some games in the early days of their existence, is that now they have the other platform. So if they're showing this, it means they're not sacrificing Coronation Street, and they can put it on Virgin Media 2, Virgin Media On Demand, Virgin Media More. They have multiple options. It also is a great thing for the League of Ireland that a commercial entity has said, we want to show this. The fact that they're even curious about it, the fact that they're even doing it, is a great sign. It's a great sign in the sense that the league is now a respectable entity. Like, when was the last time you heard of wages issues? When was the last time you heard of all the kind of bitter type of rows that used to really ruin this league? And one whine that used to always get me from when I covered games in the early 2000s was, you never do anything for us. Well, you have to do things for yourself. And in fairness, in this league, people are, and I mean clubs here, are doing things for themselves, and it is yielding dividends. And this is another sign of it, and it's great to see.
Yeah, and look, little things like say for example, LOITV and the in-house coverage, like some of the coverage for the games is excellent. I just talking to John Flanagan and Agent Taft there, like the coverage they do for a game is brilliant. You watch Shamrock Rovers and watch Graham Gartland and Colin Murphy, excellent. Yourself and Keith Tracy or Gerard O'Brien, excellent. So the clubs have now been taking the initiative to improve themselves instead of waiting for someone else to fix it. The clubs have done themselves, which is great to see. And I think that's a real valid point you make, is that we have to get to a situation where it's not just a game every 3 or 4 weeks. It has to be on every week, 8:15, Friday night. That's the time, whether it's Virgin Media, whether it's Sky Sports, whether it's RT, there has to be a platform there that every week we see a game on TV to make sure it's still in the interest of the people. That's where it has to get to in the next year or two. And that's my personal opinion. Really quick then, before we finish up, and we said we will do a plug. We are going to do a plug for our own platform. Voice notes, Oisin. Personally, I set my Darren in agreement with this. It's been an excellent addition to the league. I love the fact coming on Friday night on the bus or Saturday morning, getting up and you're listening to the bits around the grounds. You're hearing different people discuss games. It's been a great addition to the league.
Thank you very much. For many years, League of Ireland fans wanted a highlight show, and then I was part of one and no one watched it. So thanks a lot, League of Ireland fans. Thanks for nothing. And look, all jokes aside, I appreciate why the viewing figures for that weren't overly high. I'm still proud of the work we did and the pundits that we used and some of the things we tried to do. Would I have liked a second season like Alan Partridge? Of course I would have. I would have made big changes. It didn't happen. I'm not mad, because in fairness, it was tried. There was good people around it. And it's something I'm glad that I was a part of. But this year, when it was apparent that it wasn't going to happen again, I thought to myself, well, I kind of wanted to do something. But if you do a League of Ireland podcast in the middle of the week, and this is where it gets awkward, Luke, it's a crowded marketplace. It really is. But you still can't have enough of them. Yeah, because I listen to them all. I listen to all the GA podcasts. Where I find the time, I don't know. But I thought, well, there's one place where you don't have anything, and that is the night of / morning after games. And people really want to hear analysis or what happened in a game they didn't get to, or what was the view of the game that they did get to. Like, I'm always mad to get the opinions of people of a game I was at. In the same way that when I go to see a movie, the first thing I do afterwards is read the reviews. I never read the reviews of movies before I've seen it. So I thought, well, let's do it. And I thought, well, because last year there was a group of us. There was Mark Rossiter, Conan Byrne, Fabio, Graham Gartland, and a few others. And we used to actually send each other voice notes from games that we were at, of things we might observe. And then I'd ask about, then, I'd be able to take notes from that for the show, the LOI highlight show. I had to tell everyone the name of it because no one remembers it. And I thought, well, I'm obviously not going to be able to watch 15 games of football, because that's generally what we covered every week. Like, we covered more than the Sunday game on a busy day. But you'd get the notes, and so therefore you'd be covered. And I thought, well, why not take these notes and put them out there so people could listen to them, essentially like a scouting report. And people have responded well to it. And I'm glad of that. And generally I'll be at a game, so I'll record material and review stuff with whoever I'm there with. It'll be Keith Tracy again on Friday, and I'll probably talk to the managers of Pats and Cork City, and maybe a player as well, because I think people like chatting to players and hearing all about them. And then I'll get voice notes from around the league. Like for Bows and Rovers, we'll probably do something more than a voice note, because obviously it's a huge game. I haven't told Macdara this yet, but I'm telling him now. But yeah, we'll do something huge on that. But yeah, no, it's like I tried to get it out on the Friday night. Sometimes there's so much happening, and I'm really finicky when it comes to editing. Like, I'll keep clipping away until I'm happy, which means sometimes I'm there until the early hours in the morning, and I'll send it to Gareth Penrose, who luckily is an early riser on a Saturday morning, as he is every other morning. We're like an old couple. I get a message, will I go to bed? And I'm like, yeah, Gareth, because this won't be coming to you till about 1 or 2 in the morning. And then it's out there. So yeah, look, I like being part of it. If people think there's ways we can improve it or do something better or do something that they'd like us to do that we're not, then by all means they can contact me at Oisin Langan.
I think that's very well put. You're right as well. Like there's definitely gaps in the League of America, and probably one of them there isn't a gap is probably podcast. Like even last year with News Talk, when they had the off the ball, was the show
Late Night Live.
That's that was a brilliant edition last year. It was brilliant then. Obviously, when Shane Keegan kind of got the job, it kind of dropped off. But initials like that are great to hear. Like, and voice notes again has been a huge addition.
Yeah, it is, and you know it yourself, and Macdara, you know it as well. It's a big commitment. Like, let's do a podcast is the easiest sentence in the world to say. It's actually one of the hardest things to do, a proper one anyway. So like when I started doing it, I wanted to do it right. And in fairness, like I've been really lucky that anyone who I've asked to help has helped completely on their own time. The plan is hopefully in the future to get a sponsor, and then, I can actually give something back to the people who are helping. They're all doing it for nothing at the moment, including me. So it's, but yeah, it's something we need to build first, like, something we really need to build on. But look, when you see the likes of Virgin wanting to cover a game, then you think to yourself, okay, obviously there is an interest. People who are not just obliged to do it are doing it. Like Off the Ball have a bit more League of Ireland coverage on a Saturday afternoon now. Like that's a prime piece of real estate land and radio. And when and that's a big deal as well. And I don't think maybe people talk enough about that. The fact that Dan and Johnny and occasionally Graham Gartland and other League of Ireland figures are up talking League of Ireland at 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon on national radio. That's a big deal. And even like go back to Jerry O'Sullivan and I, when we presented the Saturday Sports Show on News Talk, we did a League of Ireland hour between 3 and 4. It was called the Aircom League Hour. That's how long ago it was. That was one of the biggest hours of the week on News Talk. I don't just mean of sport. I mean of the week on News Talk. Because we had a very big listenership on the Saturdays. So like there is an audience there if you do it right, and hopefully that audience will respond, and hopefully they'll click and they'll listen, and they'll maybe in time watch, because I do think there is room for some kind of League of Ireland visual highlight show. But the reason I don't do a video version of it is because I think unless you have the rights to show goals and can do it properly, just keep it to audio. And it's something like the second captains do ridiculously well. Like it's a perfect audio product, and that's why I think that they do it. Well, that's why there's not a visual version of the second captain's podcast every day, because they can do the audio perfectly, whereas they know maybe there's not much point in them doing visual stuff. Now, I'm speaking for, they've never said that to me. That's just my theory. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent now. I swear that's not what the podcast is like. I stick very much to the League of Ireland analysis.
We'll leave it there. We'll run through the fixtures for next week and Monday night, actually, in the SSE Airtricity League. Then Patrick, Cork City, UCD Shells, Dundalk, Sligo, Bows Rovers, as previously mentioned, and Derry City Drogheda. In the first division, we have Treaty United Longford Town, Bray at Lone Town, Wexford Galway, Cove Ramblers Waterford, and Kerry Finn Harps. And then Monday night, then in the Premier Division, we have Cork City Dundalk, Derry City Bows, Drogheda Pats, Shells Sligo Rovers, and Shamrock Rovers UCD. And don't forget, the women's national team are also playing. They have a double header of friendlies against the United States away. First game is 7:30 Irish time on Saturday evening, and then Wednesday next week, 12:30 at night. Macdara, shall I even ask where you are on Friday?
I'm in the Aviva Stadium to watch Leinster. No, I'm not. I'm in Denmark Park.
Oisin, where will you be this Friday night?
I'm back on duty for St. Pat's on Friday night. I missed out last weekend because I was on Six Nations duty for BBC in Cork on Saturday. And so I had to give that my full attention. But back on duty on Friday night for St. Pat's against Cork City. And there will be a Voice Notes podcast this week.
Forward listen to Voice Notes this week, as I will be away in Paris. So I will miss the Friday night game. So I look forward to hearing the voice note of what happened when Pats win 6-0.
Well, I'll be in West Dublin's capital of romance as you're in the world's capital of romance.
Lads, I think we'll leave it there. Good show. Thanks, John Flanagan. Thanks, Macdara. Thanks to Oisin. And we'll chat to you all next week.